The beggar in the spaceport Helios station was always alive. The great trade hub floated above the gas giant Aradon, glowing with endless neon signs and crowded with ships from 1,000 worlds. Merchants shouted prices, smugglers whispered deals, and bounty hunters scanned faces in the crowd. In the underbelly of the station, where the lights flickered and the smell of oil hung in the air, life was cheap and mercy was rare. Among the broken stalls and cracked metal walls, a figure sat alone. She was small, hunched, wrapped in a tattered cloak that was almost black with dirt. Her hood was pulled low, her face hidden, her hands shaking as she held out a small empty bowl. To most, she was invisible, another beggar in a place where weakness was ignored. Aliens walked by without a glance. Some muttered curses, some laughed cruelly. No one cared. But one man stopped. His name was Daniel Hale, a human cadet, far from Earth. He was young, tall, with dark hair and sharp eyes that had already seen more than his years should allow. He carried only a small pack of rations and a training uniform, marked with the crest of the Galactic Legion. He had no fortune, no power, no influence, but he had something most in Helios Station did not. Compassion. He looked at the cloaked figure. She was shivering, her thin hands clutching the bowl, her voice a broken whisper. Please, food. Water. Daniel glanced at the busy crowd. Everyone heard her. No one cared. Something in him would not let him walk past. He crouched beside her and opened his ration pack. Inside was only a protein bar and a flask of water, all he had left for the day, but he pressed them into her hands anyway. Here, take it, he said softly. Her hands trembled as she accepted the food. She held it like it was treasure, like it was life itself. Still, she did not eat. Instead, she stared at him from under the shadow of her hood. Daniel expected dull eyes, tired and hollow like the other beggars he had seen. But her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, golden, sharp, alive. They startled him. But before he could speak, she whispered, "You should not have helped me, human." Her words were quiet but heavy, carrying a strange weight. Daniel frowned, confused. "Why not?" he asked slowly. The figure lifted her head. Her hood slid back, and the spaceport seemed to freeze. Her face was not dirty or broken, like her cloak suggested. Her skin shimmered faintly, silver white like starlight, smooth and flawless. Despite the grime around it, her features were sharp and regal, her cheekbones high, her eyes burning gold. She was not a beggar, not at all. Gasps rippled through the nearest aliens. Whispers spread like fire. Daniel heard names muttered under their breath. Shalvareth, the lost bloodline, the royal house destroyed a century ago. It was a name children heard in stories. A dynasty wiped out in the Great Purge. Yet here she stood, trembling but alive. The cloaked woman straightened, her thin shoulders squared, her voice steadier now. "My name is Kaylira," she said. Though not loud, everyone heard. "And by giving me your bread, human, you have bound yourself to my fate." Daniel's heart pounded. "I don't understand," he whispered. But before Kaylira could answer, alarms screamed across the spaceport. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. Drones hovered down with weapons ready. News spread faster than fire. The last heir of Shalvareth had been found, and every faction in the galaxy would come for her. The crowd scattered in panic. Merchants slammed shutters. Smugglers ran. Bounty hunters grabbed their comms. Kaylira dropped the bowl, pulling back her cloak to reveal something hidden beneath. Thin, elegant armor beneath the dirt, etched with symbols long forbidden. Daniel realized the truth. She had been in hiding, disguised as a beggar, but she was no ordinary exile. She was the lost princess of a dynasty thought dead. Kaylira's golden eyes burned as she turned to Daniel. "You showed kindness where none would. Human," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "And now they will hunt us both. Above them." The sky of the station filled with the shadows of gunships. Security drones turned their weapons on the courtyard. Scanning for targets, Daniel tightened his jaw, his hands trembling. He had only wanted to give food to a starving stranger. Now, he stood at the center of a storm that could shake the galaxy. The beggar was no beggar, the hooded girl was no lost soul, and the human cadet, who stopped to show kindness, had unknowingly stepped into the beginning of legend. The escape through the station. The alarms howled through Helios Station. Red lights flashed across the ceiling, as if the station itself had turned into a beating heart. Gunships circled outside the docking bays, their cannons glowing with energy. And inside the underbelly, armored soldiers stormed the streets, weapons raised, voices barking orders. Kaylara pulled Daniel to his feet, her movements sharp despite her thin frame. "We cannot stay here," she said, her golden eyes blazing. "They have found me, and now they will kill anyone who stands near." Daniel's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no plan, but something in her voice told him that turning back was no longer an option. Crowds of aliens scattered in panic, stalls overturned, neon lights flickered out as traders fled. Drones hovered above, scanning faces, targeting signals flashing red. Kaylara lowered her hood once more, her silver-white skin glowing faintly in the chaos. The crowd gasped as they recognized her, whispers hissing like fire through dry grass. "It is her, the last heir. She lives." Daniel grabbed her wrist, pulling her down a narrow side alley. "This way," he said, even though he had no idea where it led. Kaylara followed, her cloak whipping behind her. The alley twisted into shadows, littered with broken crates and dripping pipes. Behind them, shouts echoed closer. Armored boots slammed against the ground. "Stop them!" one soldier roared. Bolts of plasma hissed past, searing into the walls, sparks spraying across the narrow passage. Daniel ducked low, dragging Kaylara behind a heavy steel door. She slammed her hand against a hidden control panel. To Daniel's shock, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a dark maintenance tunnel. "You know this place," Daniel whispered. Kaylira's eyes narrowed. "I have lived in the shadows of this station for years, human, hiding, surviving, waiting. I know its bones better than those who rule it." The tunnel was cramped and dripping with condensation, steam hissing from broken vents. They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing. Daniel's chest burned with every breath, but Kaylara pressed on with steady determination. She was no longer the fragile beggar he had seen by the wall. She moved like someone who had been hunted many times before. The tunnel split into two. Kaylara hesitated, listening. The sound of drones buzzed from the left, soldiers from the right. Trapped, Daniel clenched his jaw, his training as a cadet sparking in his mind. "Up there!" He pointed to a maintenance ladder that climbed into darkness. Kaylara nodded once, climbing swiftly, her cloak fluttering as she pulled herself into the shadows. Daniel followed, his arms straining, his boots slipping on the cold rungs. Plasma bolts hissed below as soldiers entered the tunnel, their voices sharp. "They are here, move!" The ladder ended at a grated hatch. Kaylara pressed her hand against it, her eyes glowing faintly. The lock clicked open as if obeying her. Daniel raised an eyebrow, but before he could ask, she whispered, "Not all the old blood was destroyed. Some doors still remember us." The hatch swung open, and they emerged into a wide chamber, filled with humming machines and endless wires. The air vibrated with power. Daniel recognized it instantly. The energy conduits that ran through the station's heart. One wrong move, and the entire sector could explode. Kaylara walked with confidence through the maze of glowing pipes. She knew where she was going. Daniel followed close, his mind racing. Who was she really? And how had a human cadet become tied to a destiny older than the station itself? The sound of boots echoed again, closer this time. Drones hovered through the vents, their red eyes scanning. Kalyra stopped suddenly and turned to Daniel. "If they catch us, you will die for helping me," she said quietly. "You should leave, human. Save yourself." Daniel stared at her, sweat dripping down his brow. He could hear soldiers breaking through doors behind them, the hiss of plasma rifles charging. And yet, despite the danger, he shook his head. "No, I won't leave. I didn't give you food to abandon you now." For a moment, Kalyra just looked at him, her golden eyes unreadable. Then she nodded once, a small but sharp gesture. "Very well, then you walk the path with me." Before Daniel could reply, the chamber exploded in light as soldiers poured through the upper doors. "Target acquired!" A voice barked. Kalyra grabbed Daniel's hand and sprinted toward the far wall, her cloak flying behind her. A hidden panel slid aside at her touch, revealing another dark tunnel beyond. But before she entered, she looked back once, her voice fierce. "Run now, human. For when this begins, the galaxy itself will turn." And then the tunnel swallowed them in darkness, the shouts of soldiers echoing like thunder behind. The secrets of the lost air. The maintenance tunnels stretched for miles, twisting like veins beneath the great body of Helios Station. Kalyra moved swiftly through the dark, her golden eyes glowing faintly. Guiding the way, Daniel followed close, his boots splashing through puddles of condensation, his heart pounding from both fear and questions. They finally stopped inside a hidden chamber. Old consoles flickered dimly, dust-covered ancient chairs. The air smelled of rust and forgotten secrets. Kalyra placed her hand on one of the consoles, and to Daniel's surprise, it hummed to life, golden lights blooming under her touch. Daniel finally spoke, his voice heavy with disbelief. "You knew these tunnels, these machines. They respond to you. Who are you really?" Kalyra lowered her hood fully now, the silver shimmer of her skin visible in the faint light. She looked older than before, not in years, but in presence, regal despite her ragged cloak. "I am Kalyra Shalvareth," she said, her voice quiet yet unshakable. Last heir of the Shalvareth dynasty, the bloodline that once ruled a third of the galaxy. Daniel froze, his mind racing. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Your dynasty was destroyed 100 years ago in the Purge. Every record says your people were hunted to extinction." Kalyra's jaw tightened, her golden eyes burning with pain. "Yes, the Purge was real. The empires united against us. They feared us. They hunted us. They slaughtered my kin." Her voice shook, but did not break. "But a few of us escaped, hidden in shadows, scattered across forgotten worlds. I was a child then, carried through fire and blood." She touched the console again, and an image flickered across the cracked screen. It showed a crest, an ancient sigil of silver wings, spread wide around a golden star. "This is the mark of my house," she said. "These machines were built by my ancestors, hidden deep, programmed to answer only our blood." Daniel stared at the glowing symbol. Pieces began to fit together in his mind. Her eyes, her voice, the way the station itself seemed to recognize her. She was no beggar, no ordinary fugitive. She was a spark of a fire thought long extinguished. "But why here?" Daniel asked. "If you are who you say you are, why hide as a beggar in the lowest streets of Helios?" Kalyra's gaze dropped, her voice soft. "Because the galaxy believes I am dead. Because the galaxy must believe if I revealed myself too soon, every bounty hunter, every warlord, every government would race to kill me. I have survived only because I was invisible." Her eyes lifted to him again, sharp and burning. "Until you gave me food, until you saw me. And now everything has changed." Daniel swallowed hard, the weight of his choice pressed against him. He had only offered bread, and now he was standing in the shadows of a legacy, older and deadlier than he could imagine. "You said the galaxy will hunt us," he whispered. Why are they so afraid of you?" Kalyra stepped closer, her presence fierce despite her small frame. "Because of what my people carried," she said. "We were not only rulers, we were builders of knowledge, keepers of technology far beyond what exists today. When the other empires realized how much we knew, how much power we could wield, they united against us. Better to erase us than risk what we might become." Her hand tightened into a fist. "They burned our cities, shattered our fleets, erased our name from the stars, but they failed to erase the bloodline." She placed her palm flat against her chest. "I am proof of that failure, and proof is more dangerous than armies." Daniel's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "And me? What part do I play in this?" Heiress studied him for a long moment, then spoke slowly. "You are human," she said. "The galaxy knows of your kind, stubborn, reckless, survivors of a death world, feared by many, but still underestimated. When you gave me bread, you did more than show kindness. You tied your fate to mine." Her golden eyes locked with his. "Now the galaxy will see a human standing with the last of Shalvareth, and that image will terrify them more than my bloodline alone." The chamber lights flickered as footsteps echoed faintly in the tunnels beyond. Daniel turned toward the sound, his pulse racing again. "They're still searching," he said. Heiress nodded, pulling her cloak tighter. "They will not stop, not until one of us is dead. We must move, but now you know why, human. You know what I am, and what is at stake." Daniel's chest tightened with both fear and resolve. He had stumbled into this by accident, but there was no turning back now. If the galaxy wanted to hunt her, then it would hunt him too. And for reasons he could not explain, he felt no regret. Instead, he felt something else. Purpose. Heiress' golden eyes glowed in the dark as she stepped back toward the shadows of the tunnel. "Come," she said, her voice steady. "The hunters are close, and soon the galaxy will not whisper, but scream." The hunters closing in. The tunnel shook with distant explosions. Dust fell from the ceiling. The old pipes groaned as if the station itself felt the hunt. Heiress and Daniel moved quickly, their shadows stretching long in the dim light. But the sound behind them kept growing louder. Armored boots, the whirring of drones, voices barking orders. "They are close," Heiress whispered, her golden eyes scanning the dark. Daniel's chest tightened. He could hear the soldiers' pursuit, echoing through the metal passages. "Where do we go?" he asked, his voice raw with exhaustion. Heiress pressed her hand against the wall, and another hidden panel slid open, revealing a spiral stairwell rising upward. Without hesitation, she moved first, her cloak flowing like a dark flame. They climbed quickly, but before they reached the top, the stairwell filled with red light. Drones dropped from above, their eyes glowing like burning coals. Weapons locking on target. "Down!" Heiress snapped, pushing Daniel against the wall. Plasma bolts hissed through the air, scorching the steps. Sparks rained down. Daniel grabbed a loose metal pipe and swung hard, knocking one drone into the stairwell wall. It sparked and crashed, but two more hovered close, their weapons ready. Heiress raised her hand, and for the first time, Daniel saw a flash of what made her dangerous. Her skin glowed faint silver, lines of light racing across her arms. The air around her shimmered like heat, and the drones froze mid-air, their lights flickering. With a sharp motion of her hand, they crumpled like paper. Crashing to the ground in silence, Daniel stared wide-eyed. You could do this all along." Heiress' breath shook, as if the act had cost her strength. "I cannot use it often," she whispered. "The more I show, the faster they will know." They pushed through the hatch at the top of the stairwell, emerging into a vast chamber filled with market stalls. Helios Station's mid-tier bazaar. The place was chaos. Thousands of aliens scattering as soldiers poured in from every entrance. Announcements echoed through the air. "Attention, citizens! A dangerous fugitive has been spotted. Surrender her at once." Heiress pulled her hood low again, But it was too late. Her silver skin caught the glow of neon lights. Her golden eyes flashed beneath the hood, and the crowd gasped. Whispers rippled like wildfire. It's her, the lost heir. The Shalvareth lives. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her into the fleeing crowd. Keep moving, don't stop, he said. But every turn they made, soldiers blocked their path. Rifles aimed, drones circling above like vultures. One commander stepped forward, his armor gleaming black, his voice cold. Kaelira Shalvareth, by order of the Alliance Council, you are under arrest. Surrender now, or we will open fire. Kaelira stood tall, despite her ragged cloak. Her voice rang out, calm but unyielding. You fear me so much. You chase me through shadows. You hide behind soldiers and drones. Yet here I stand with nothing but truth. The commander sneered, raising his weapon. There is no truth, only extinction for your kind. Daniel felt his stomach twist. He could see soldiers taking aim, the crowd shrinking back, fear thick in the air. If Kaelira resisted openly, the entire market would turn into a battlefield. He stepped forward before he even thought, his voice louder than he expected. Wait, he shouted. All eyes turned to him. She is not your enemy. She is hunted because you fear what she represents. But I am human, and I stand with her. The commander's visor turned toward him, his voice dripping with disdain. A human, he said. You think that matters? Daniel swallowed hard, but his voice stayed steady. Yes, because the galaxy already fears what humans can endure. Now imagine what they will fear when they see one standing beside her. The market erupted in murmurs. Aliens whispering, watching, questioning. The commander's weapon did not lower, but hesitation cracked his certainty. In that breath of hesitation, Kaelira moved. Her hand touched the ground, silver light rippling outward like water. The floor beneath the soldiers trembled, plates of metal shifting as if alive. Weapons sparked, drones faltered, chaos exploded. Daniel grabbed her again, pulling her into the chaos, weaving through overturned stalls, shouting merchants, panicked civilians. Bolts of plasma seared past, striking walls and scattering debris. But Kaelira's power lingered, disrupting weapons, bending lights, giving them just enough time to vanish into another hidden corridor. Breathing hard, Daniel leaned against the wall. That was too close, he muttered. Kaelira's eyes glowed faintly, her face pale from exhaustion. It will only get closer, she whispered. The hunters are not just soldiers. Human, they are something worse, something you have not seen yet. And when they arrive, no crowd, no market, no wall will stop them. Daniel stared at her, his pulse still racing. What are they? He asked. Kaelira's gaze turned distant, her voice heavy, as if carrying the weight of nightmares. They are called the Wraithborn, killers made only to hunt my blood. And they are already here. The air grew colder. Shadows deepened, and Daniel knew the real hunt had only just begun. The arrival of the Wraithborn. The corridor was silent, too silent. Even the noise of soldiers and drones behind them had faded, swallowed by the heavy shadows. Daniel's breath echoed in the narrow space, his chest rising and falling fast. Kaelira walked slower now, her steps deliberate, her golden eyes scanning every corner. They have stopped chasing, Daniel whispered, almost hopeful. Kaelira shook her head, her voice calm but sharp. No, human, they did not stop. They were ordered to fall back. The real hunters are here now. The air itself felt colder. A strange vibration crawled along Daniel's skin, as if unseen claws brushed against him. The lights flickered overhead, dimming one by one, until the corridor glowed only with the faint shimmer of Kaelira's skin. Then he saw them, shapes moving in the dark, tall and thin, shadows with no clear edges, their bodies shifting like smoke. Only their eyes were clear, burning white. empty and endless. They made no sound as they approached, yet Daniel's heart hammered louder with each step they took. Kalira's face tightened, her cloak wrapping around her. "The Wraithborn," she whispered. "The Alliance forged them in secret. Weapons built only for one purpose, to hunt the last of my blood." Daniel swallowed hard, his instincts screaming to run, but his feet felt heavy. "They don't even look alive," he muttered. Kalira's gaze did not leave the shadows. "They are not alive, not in the way you know. They are machines of flesh and thought, filled with the hatred of those who created them." The first Wraithborn stepped closer. Its long arm reached out, the air around its claws bending, the metal wall hissing as it touched. Where the claw passed, the steel corroded, turning black and crumbling like ash. Daniel pulled Kalira back. "We can't fight that," he hissed. But Kalira's eyes blazed brighter, her voice low. "We can, but it will cost." The Wraithborn moved with inhuman speed. One moment it was standing still, the next it was upon them, claws slashing through the air. Daniel barely ducked, feeling the heat of its strike burn past his cheek. Kalira raised her hand, silver light erupting like lightning. The blast hit the creature's chest, sending it staggering back, its smoky body twisting. For a moment, Daniel thought it was over, but the Wraithborn straightened, the wound in its chest sealing as if it had never been. Its empty eyes turned to Kalira, and it hissed. Not a sound of pain, but a sound of hunger. More shapes moved in the shadows. 3, 4, 5 of them, surrounding the corridor. Daniel's stomach dropped. "We're trapped," he said. Kalira's hand trembled, her glow dimming. "I cannot destroy them all. Not here. Not yet." The Wraithborn closed in, their claws glowing faintly. The walls of the corridor, corroding wherever they touched. Daniel's grip tightened around the broken metal pipe he still carried. It was useless against these monsters, but he refused to stand empty-handed. He planted his feet beside Kalira, his voice firm despite the fear. "Then we fight together." Kalira looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "You are human," she said softly. "And that may be enough." The first Wraithborn lunged again, its claw swinging toward Daniel. He raised the pipe instinctively, expecting it to melt instantly. But when the claw struck, sparks burst in every direction, and the pipe remained whole. The Wraithborn hissed, recoiling as if burned. Daniel stared at the pipe, stunned. "What? Why didn't it melt?" he gasped. Kalira's eyes widened in sudden recognition. "The alloy. Human steel. Forged on a death world. It resists corruption. Your world makes weapons without even knowing their true value." Hope sparked in Daniel's chest. He tightened his grip and swung again, striking another Wraithborn across the arm. The creature shrieked, its smoky form twisting violently before it melted back into the shadows. Kalira raised her hands, silver light bursting once more, striking the remaining creatures. The corridor blazed with fire and steel. Daniel swinging with raw determination, Kalira unleashing her hidden power. The Wraithborn hissed and retreated, their bodies fading back into the shadows from which they came. For now, the path was clear. Daniel leaned against the wall, his body shaking with exhaustion. "Did we win?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Kalira shook her head, her face pale but her eyes burning. "No, human. Wraithborn never stop. This was only a test. They will return stronger, and next time, they will not underestimate you." She stepped forward, her voice low and heavy. "The galaxy does not yet understand, but soon they will." A human standing with the blood of Shalvareth, wielding Deathworld steel against the Wraithborn. This is a story they will not be able to hide, and it has only just begun. The hidden refuge. The station's tunnels opened into silence again. Daniel's boots scraped against old metal, his breath still ragged from the fight with the Wraithborn. Kalira walked ahead, her golden eyes glowing dim, her face pale, but her steps steady. She had not spoken since the battle, and the silence pressed heavy between them. Finally, they reached a wide bulkhead door, sealed with rust and age. It looked abandoned, forgotten by the station's endless repairs. Daniel frowned. "This place looks dead," he muttered. Kalira pressed her palm against the center of the door, her skin glowing faint silver. The metal trembled, and with a groan, the massive door split apart, sliding slowly open. Beyond it lay a cavernous chamber, but not like any Daniel had seen. Glowing vines stretched across the walls, lighting the space with a soft blue haze. Pools of water shimmered beneath broken columns, and carved into the stone were symbols like the crest Kalira had shown him earlier. It felt alive, sacred, a place untouched by the chaos of the station above. Daniel stared in awe. "What is this place?" he whispered. Kalira's voice was low but steady. "A refuge, built by my people long before the purge. When we knew the galaxy would turn against us, every station, every world under our reach had hidden sanctuaries like this. Most have been destroyed, but this one remained." She walked slowly into the chamber, her hand brushing against one of the glowing vines. "It is more than a hiding place," she continued. "It remembers. It carries the memory of my bloodline, the knowledge we tried to protect." The air seemed to hum around them, a low vibration that sank into Daniel's chest. He shivered, glancing around. "It feels alive," he muttered. Kalira nodded, her golden eyes reflecting the glow. "It is human. Our ancestors wove living energy into stone and metal. Places like this were not just safe houses. They were seeds, waiting for us to return." At the far end of the chamber, a tall crystalline pillar rose from the ground, pulsing faintly with golden light. Kalira approached it slowly, her cloak dragging across the stone floor. When she touched it, the entire chamber came alive, vines glowing brighter, water rippling, and the symbols across the walls lighting up one by one. Daniel took a step back, his heart pounding. "Kalira," he said, "what's happening?" She closed her eyes, her voice echoing with strange resonance. "It welcomes me. It knows the blood of Shalvareth still flows, and it remembers what was lost." The pillar projected images into the air. Fleets of shining ships, cities of silver towers, people with glowing eyes singing to the stars. Then fire, war, the purge, burning worlds, falling ships, screams swallowed by darkness. Daniel's stomach twisted as he watched. This was not just history. It was memory, raw and unflinching. When the vision faded, Kalira's hands trembled, her shoulders heavy. "This is what they erased," she whispered. "Our story, our truth, hidden until one of us returned to awaken it." Daniel stood silent for a moment, then stepped closer. His voice was steady but curious. "Why show me?" he asked. "You barely knew me before today, yet you share this with me." Kalira looked at him, her golden eyes fierce but tired. "Because you did what no other would do. Human," she said softly. "You gave me bread, not out of fear, not out of duty, but because you chose to see me. And now you have fought beside me against the Wraithborn. This place accepts you because I do." The pillar pulsed again, and a faint glow spread across the floor, forming patterns under Daniel's feet. He froze, staring down. "What is this?" he whispered. Kalira's voice grew serious. "It is recognizing you, Daniel. The refuge marks those who stand with the air. You are no longer an outsider, whether you want it or not. You are part of this legacy now." The weight of her words pressed on him. He had only offered food, only reached out to help, and yet now he was marked by a history, and a war much larger than himself. For the first time, he felt not only fear, but responsibility. Before he could speak, the chamber shuddered, dust falling from the ceiling. Kalira's eyes widened. "They have found us," she whispered. Daniel's pulse spiked. "Here, in this place. But you said it was hidden." Kalira's face hardened. It was. But the Wraithborn do not stop. They can follow blood through stone, through air, through anything. The glowing vines dimmed as the heavy sound of claws echoed from the corridor beyond the door. The shadows lengthened, twisting unnaturally. Kalira stepped closer to Daniel, her voice low but unshaken. This refuge was meant to keep me safe, but now it will become our battlefield. Daniel tightened his grip on the steel pipe. His jaw set. The chamber glowed faintly around them, the pillar pulsing like a heartbeat. And for the first time, Daniel felt the place watching him, not as a stranger, but as part of the story. At the last stand in the refuge trembled like a living heart under siege. From the dark corridor beyond the bulkhead came the sound of claws scraping metal, the hiss of corrupted breath, and the echo of soldiers marching in formation. The Wraithborn had found them, and with them came armored troops. Their orders clear. No mercy, no survivors. Daniel gripped the human steel pipe tighter, his knuckles white. The glow from the ancient pillar spread faint lines of golden light across the floor. Wrapping around his feet like chains of fire, he felt the pulse in his bones, steady, strong, as if the refuge itself was lending him strength. Kalira stood tall beside him, her hood finally cast aside, her silver skin glowing brighter than before. She looked nothing like the beggar he had first met. Now she was a figure of fire and memory, the heir of a dynasty, thought extinct. Her golden eyes burned as she faced the growing shadow at the chamber's door. The first Wraithborn entered, its body half shadow, half flesh, its claws corroding the floor as it moved. Behind it marched soldiers in black armor, rifles glowing, their visors reflecting the chamber's light. The commander's voice echoed coldly. "End it now! No witnesses." Daniel's chest tightened, but he stepped forward. "No!" he shouted, his voice shaking but firm. "You call her dangerous, but you're afraid of the truth she carries, and you're afraid of me, a human who refuses to bow." The soldiers hesitated, murmurs running through their ranks. A human standing with the last of Shalvareth. It was not what they expected, not what their orders prepared them for. But the Wraithborn did not hesitate. Their burning eyes locked on Kalira as they surged forward. Kalira raised her hands, silver light exploding outward, vines along the walls, glowing brighter as if answering her call. The refuge itself awoke, the ground trembling, symbols across the walls blazing with ancient power. The Wraithborn hissed as the light struck them, their smoky forms twisting, retreating slightly under its force. Daniel leapt into the fight, swinging the steel pipe with raw fury. The first strike shattered through a Wraithborn's arm, its smoky flesh burning away where the human alloy struck. The creature shrieked, collapsing into shadow for the first time. Daniel felt power not from training, but from defiance. He was human, and that was enough. The battle filled the chamber. Kalira moved like a storm, her hands glowing, her voice echoing words in a language older than the station itself. Every strike sent waves of silver energy crashing into the enemy, tearing through drones, bending weapons. But each attack drained her, her breath growing heavier, her glow flickering. Daniel fought beside her, his strikes clumsy but unrelenting. He blocked claws, smashed helmets, forced soldiers back step by step. The refuge seemed to fight with them, vines wrapping around weapons, stone rising like barriers, light pulsing in rhythm with their struggle. Yet the Wraithborn kept coming, endless shadows pressing from every side. The commander stepped forward, raising his rifle at Kalira. "This ends with your bloodline erased forever," he snarled. Before he could fire, Daniel hurled his steel pipe with all his strength. It slammed into the rifle, knocking it aside, the shot blasting harmlessly into the ceiling. The commander staggered back, glaring. "A human!" he spat. "So you would die for her." Daniel stood tall, his chest heaving. "No," he said. his voice burning with resolve. I will live for her, for the truth, and the galaxy will remember this. Kaylira's glow flared one final time, brighter than ever. She pressed both hands against the pillar, and the entire refuge roared to life. Golden light burst outward like a sun, flooding the chamber, burning through shadow, searing the Wraithborn where they stood. The soldiers shielded their eyes, stumbling back, weapons failing under the surge. Daniel covered his face from the blaze, his body shaking with the force of it. When the light faded, the chamber was silent again. The Wraithborn were gone, dissolved into smoke and nothingness. The soldiers had fled, their commander retreating into the shadows, defeated but not destroyed. Kaylira collapsed to her knees, her glow dimming to almost nothing, her body trembling from the effort. Daniel rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. Her voice was weak but steady. They will return, stronger, more desperate. But now they know human. Now the galaxy has seen. Shalvareth lives, and the heir does not stand alone. Daniel looked around the glowing refuge, the marks on the walls still burning faintly, the chamber itself alive with memory. He realized then that this was not the end, not even close. It was the beginning of a war that would shake every star in the galaxy, and for reasons he could not explain, he felt ready. Kaylira's golden eyes flickered open, locking on him. "Daniel," she whispered, "the galaxy will remember what we do here. But tell me, will you stay, even when every world hunts us?" Daniel held her steady, his voice firm. "Yes, I will stay, because I am human. And humans don't run." The refuge pulsed once more, as if sealing his words into its memory. The shadows had been pushed back for now, but both of them knew the war was only beginning.